My name is Robin Elliott. I am a person in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is that it's been over 29 years since I've had my last mood-altering substance. We are the co-founders of Georgia Overdose Prevention. We're a grassroots group of people that came together back in 2012 to create the Georgia 911 Medical Amnesty and Expanded Naloxone Access Law in the state of Georgia. And this I'll hold up his picture if you can see him. This is my son, Zach. Zach was a beautiful, bright, talented, sweet kid, super smart, lots of friends, played sports. He probably was never happier than he was with his guitar in his hand. And, popular, but he was also an opiate user. Zach started his substance use journey at the age of 16. And after a lengthy battle, including 2.5 years in total at treatment facilities and in recovery communities, still hard. Zach lost the fight on May 1st, 2011 at the age of 21. He was my only child. Sorry, still hits me to say it out loud. After Zach died, through a series of events that really somehow felt almost destined, they were kind of like dominoes falling. I met some people who wanted to try to get a law passed in Georgia, and our group just expanded. We didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea what we were doing, honestly. And we were fortunate to get some help from some really wonderful people, including Neil Campbell and other people. One of Zach's best friends from his whole life growing up was a first-year law student, and he was doing an internship at the Capitol and working for Representative Sharon Cooper. And he got us an invitation to her home on a Sunday afternoon in 2013. And we sat and told her our stories of our children and our friends and our family members. And at the end of our visit, she agreed to sponsor our bill and to take it forward in the 2014 session. So we spent weeks at the Capitol. Again, I'm telling you, we didn't know what we were doing. We worked the ropes and we chased legislators down the halls, and we testified at subcommittees, and we just did whatever we could to try to educate people on what our law said and to tell them about our family members. And despite being discouraged by a lot of people who said, you'll never get this law passed in the state of Georgia, or if you do, it's going to take you a very long time. That very year, on April 24th, 2014, we were honored to stand in Governor Deal's office as he signed the Georgia 911 Medical Amnesty and Expanded Naloxone Access Bill into law. Today is about advocacy, and I can tell you that when we started, I'm a skeptic. I thought, who's going to listen to me? I mean, who am I? But we had loud voices, and we got help. And you know what? The legislators, they did listen, and they do listen. So I would just encourage you to please use your voices, because they will listen to us, and we're a large group. So I guess what I want to go away with, and then I'll turn it over to Lori, is just letting you know the two primary things I want you to walk away with regards to what our law says. Number one is the don't run, call 911. Anyone at the scene of an overdose who calls 911 and stays with the victim until medical help arrives is protected, as is the victim. So both the caller and the victim are protected under our law. They cannot be arrested, charged, or prosecuted in the state of Georgia for drug paraphernalia, for alcohol if they're underage, or for personal use quantities of drugs, which actually translate to less than 4 grams of a solid substance, or a solid substance mixed with a liquid, less than 1 ounce of pot, marijuana, or less than 1 milliliter of liquid, say in a syringe or a cooker. And number two, everyone in Georgia can obtain naloxone and can administer it to someone suspected of overdosing, and they are protected from civil, criminal, and professional licensing liability for doing so. So all that being said, I want to flip it over to Lori, and she's going to go ahead and give you all an Narcan training.
All right. So I'm going to talk to you about how to respond when you suspect that someone is having an overdose. And the first question that comes up is, well, what are they going to look like? So if someone is overdosing on opioids, you may notice that their pupils are just like little pinpoint dots. They may have blue lips or blue around their mouth. Their face, if they're light complected like me, will look kind of bluish purplish. If they are a darker complected person, they may look more gray or ashen. Their nail beds may look blue because of a lack of oxygen. They may be unconscious or they could be conscious. They may be breathing or they may not be breathing. If they still are breathing some, they may be making gasping or gurgling sounds or a sound that sounds like snoring. If you feel for a pulse, they may have a heartbeat or they may not have a heartbeat. If they have one, it's going to slow down and it could be erratic. And they can't respond to you if you ask them questions. They can't respond coherently. So those are some of the signs and symptoms. We don't want you to waste time assessing everybody from head to toe because it's really important to act quickly, get Narcan into them quickly so they can start breathing again. So what you're going to do is assess for one thing, and that one thing is unresponsiveness. And the way that you assess for unresponsiveness is you do what I call the 3 S's. That is, you grab their shoulder and you shake it really hard. You get up in their face and you shout at them, "Hey, wake up. Are you okay?" If you know their name, you can shout their name. And the third S is for sternum, the breastbone. You're going to take your hand, put it into a fist, and take your knuckles and rub really hard up and down the breastbone because that's very painful. And if they are conscious and with it, they should respond to pain. So if they don't respond to that pain, then you are going to prepare them to get some naloxone from you. The first thing you need to do before you give someone naloxone after you do that assessment is you need to get them on their back on a hard, flat surface. Don't ever leave someone overdosing on a soft surface like a bed, a couch, the back seat of a car. Because later on, if you are doing chest compressions, they do not work effectively if the person has a soft surface behind their back. They've got to have a hard surface. So usually if you're inside, the hard surface is the floor. If you're outside, it's the ground. So get them down on the floor, and then you're going to tilt their head up. And you tilt your head up for several reasons. Number one, it opens up their airway. Number two, it gives you a quick second. And this is a very important step. And it's not in a lot of trainings, but it's very important. It gives you a quick second to pull their chin down, get your cell phone and use that little flashlight app because it's dark in there, especially if it's night. Look in their mouth, and if there's any foreign objects in there, like pills that are still dissolving, maybe a syringe cap, if they pulled off the cap of a syringe, if they were going to inject, that may have fallen back into their mouth and they could choke on that. There might be fentanyl patches in there where they cheek them up against their cheek or cut them into small pieces and put under their tongue. You need to clean that mouth out first before the next step. Because when you give them Narcan, they inhale, so you don't want anything in their mouth. So if there's anything in there, cover your hand if you can, because they might bite you. It's not going to overdose you if you touch a pill or a fentanyl patch with your hand in that situation, I promise. But they might bite you. So try to cover your hand with the tail of your shirt or their shirt, clean out their mouth. And then the third reason you've got that head tilted back is because of the way that this medication works. This is Narcan nasal spray, and inside of the box are two of these little units. They open right up, just pull that off, and they're ready to go. Okay, there's no cap. You don't prime it and practice with it first. There's one dose of medicine. The way that this works is when you place this nozzle up the person's nostril and depress the plunger with your thumb, it sprays out medicine, and that medicine has to sit inside the nose and be absorbed by the tiny little blood vessels that are inside the nose, because the person's not gonna go and suck it up, because they can't do that right now. Okay, so that's why you got to have that head tilted back, because if it's not, you're going to squirt it and it's going to roll out and it's not going to work. So keep that head tilted back, get your Narcan nasal, put it up as far as it'll go into one nostril, and depress the plunger. Then you call 911. You want to get the Narcan in first. You want it to start working. That's the most important thing. Then you get your cell phone, put it on speaker, call 911 and tell them your address and where you are inside of that address. If you're in the basement, on the second floor, the back bedroom, the backyard, wherever, tell them that. And tell them that you suspect an overdose and that you have given one dose of whatever kind of Narcan you have. This one is, like I said, Narcan nasal spray. And that's the one we give out the most. And then you simply follow their instructions. The 911 operator is probably going to have you feel for a pulse and also watch the victim's chest rise and fall, and they'll instruct you to say a certain word when you feel the beat or when you see the chest rise. Then the 911 operator will compute what their respirations are, what their heartbeat is, their pulse, and they will tell you whether or not they want you to do full-blown CPR with chest compressions and breathing, if they just want you to do rescue breathing, if they just want you to do chest compressions, or if your Narcan has already started working well and the person's becoming responsive, they may instruct you to just turn them on their left side in a recovery position. But whatever they tell you to do, if they tell you to do these resuscitative measures on the person, you do it for 2 minutes. So for 2 minutes, you're sitting there doing what they've told you to do. And after 2 minutes, take a second and look at your victim and see if they're starting to respond, because before they were non-responsive. If they're responding, their color's going to be improving. They're going to start breathing normally. They're maybe going to ask you what happened. Maybe they're mad at you because when you give them that Narcan, you throw them into withdrawal, so they don't feel good at all. But those are all actually really good signs. So if they're starting to respond, then you just put them on their left side, and there is a picture right inside this little box with the instructions, and there's a picture right here that shows you the left lateral rescue position. What that does is it basically prevents them from aspirating if they vomit. You don't want them on their back and vomiting, so you turn them on their left side. If you look at your patient after 2 minutes, I say patient because I'm a nurse, I'm sorry, but if you look at the victim and they aren't getting better, their color's still bad, they're not breathing normally, they're still unconscious, then at 2 minutes, you get your box, you open it up again. There's always 2 doses in every kind of Narcan that you get. You take out the second dose and take the one you haven't used, the little unit, go up the side of the nose that you haven't used yet, because it's going to be more dry and more absorbent. And when you put the nozzle in there, you want to push it as far as it'll go, okay? And then depress the plunger. Then tell the 911 operator, I gave them a second dose of Narcan nasal spray, and do what you're doing for 2 more minutes. You can continue giving all the doses you have, as many as you have, every 2 minutes until the victim becomes responsive or until EMS comes busting in the door from your 911 call. Okay. We've had some overdoses that have taken 12 doses. So you're not going to hurt somebody by giving them extra, doses, especially with fentanyl out there. It's taking more doses. And that's really all there is to it. If the only thing you remember is to tilt someone's head back, take this and squirt it and keep their head tilted back and then call 911, you've probably saved their life. When you do call 911 and the EMS comes in, if the victim refuses transport to the hospital, please stay with them for 6 to 8 hours, because this naloxone only lasts 30 to 90 minutes. And after 30 to 90 minutes, it will wear off, and the opioids in their bloodstream can reattach to receptors that help control breathing, and they can go back into their overdose without taking any more drugs. So please stay with them for 6 to 8 hours, because you may have to reverse them again in a couple of hours. We're seeing that a lot too. So, but encourage people to go to the hospital, because they can get other type of help there too. So there's a few important facts about naloxone I'd like to tell you. Number one, and this is probably one of the biggest things, is there is an expiration date on the product, but latest research has showed that naloxone lasts almost 30 years past that printed expiration date. So if you've got it, use it, okay? The law in Georgia actually protects you if you administer expired naloxone. You cannot get in trouble for that. So if you've got it, use it. It will save people's lives years and years and years past the expiration date. Number two, it's really temperature hardy. So keep it where it's most likely to be used. If that is the glove box of your car or your pocketbook, then keep it there, okay? Don't worry that much about the temperature. I mean, it's best to keep it at the recommended temps, but more importantly, you want it with you so you can use it when you need it. Of course, it only works on opiates and opioids, so heroin, fentanyl, all of the fentanyl analogs, oxys, roxys, Percocet, morphine, codeine, Dilaudid, everything like that. It doesn't work on alcohol or cocaine or methamphetamines or spice or bath salts, or benzodiazepines like Valium or Klonopin or Xanax. But in Georgia, pretty much everything except pot out on the street at one time or another, those classes of drugs have had fentanyl in them, either laced or contaminated in the process of it being made. So when in doubt, when someone's overdosing, regardless of what people at the scene tell you, please give them Narcan, because you can save their life. And as I mentioned, just a quick review, you can redose every 2 minutes, and it only lasts 30 to 90 minutes. So in Georgia, the way you can get naloxone is you can either go to a pharmacy, and most insurance companies will pay for the cost of the naloxone. If you've met your deductible, you should just have to pay for the copay for most insurances and some of the Medicaid and Medicare programs. You can also contact us at www.georgiaoverdoseprevention.org. Robin has put that over in the chat box. And on our new website now, it's all spiffy looking, and you fill out a form to request naloxone. You can also anonymously report reversals from our kits, and we would love for you to do that, because that really helps us get more naloxone. To date, we know of 3,367 people whose lives have been saved by our naloxone kits, and also the naloxone kits of our partner, who is Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition. So we really appreciate the lay people in Georgia that are getting out there using these kits on people who need it, because you guys are the ones that do it. You know, we're just giving you a tool, but you're using the tool. So, you know, our mission is just to prevent fatal overdoses by training people, lay people in Georgia to administer the naloxone we provide for them, and to call 911 at the scene of an overdose, because our law will protect you. And our tagline is, where there's life, there's hope.